So it's Michigan against not just the world, but everybody, as the Wolverines admit they've got a little bit of a chip on their shoulder as we welcome in Anthony Bellino. Never a chip on his shoulder. You see him every morning right here on BCSN with the X's and Bros show. Anthony, first off, happy Thanksgiving. Secondly, thank you for joining us.
Happy Thanksgiving to you and to all of our viewers out there. Hopefully they've enjoyed the program throughout the weeks of the college football season. It felt like just yesterday we were kicking this off talking about East Carolina, and here we are now, Mark. Hate week is upon us. Rivalry week, the game, the biggest rivalry in the history of sports. It is an absolute pleasure to be on with you once again, my friend.
You mentioned it, hate week. Jim Harbaugh, perhaps given the opportunity, took the high road on Monday when he was asked about his respect level for Ohio State, the program, Ryan Dana's coaching staff. He didn't say anything. He just talked about the focus is on beating Ohio State, or beating Ohio as he referred to them, and didn't really want to talk about whether or not he has any respect for the coaching staff of the Buckeyes.
Yeah, look, I mean, I think that's more for us. I think that they all know what's at hand. I think that, to know your enemy, or know your enemy better than you know yourself, the book of The Art of War by Sun Tzu. If our viewers are familiar with that, there is a ton of respect, whether they hate each other or not. You have to respect them, because if you don't respect them, that's when you get beat, right? If you think you're going to walk in there and you're going to do whatever you want and the other team's going to lay down, that is not going to be the case. It certainly isn't going to be the case with everything that is at stake for both teams. And I know a lot of people might feel that there's a ton of pressure on Michigan because of some of the sagas and the scandals that have taken place. I mean, come on, we still don't even know what's going on with Matt Weiss and the computer crimes, the GA that was dismissed earlier in the year, a linebackers coach fired on Friday. Your head coach has been suspended for now half the season. I mean, come on, there's plenty to talk about when it comes to the Michigan Wolverines, but the focus has got to be on what Michigan can do in this particular matchup on this particular day to beat this particular opponent. You can't overlook them. You have to respect them, because if not, that's when you get caught with that overhand right that knocks you down to the ground. Then you're, worried about trying to get up and, make sure that you don't get the, the standing 8 count or anything of that nature. So you want to be able to respect them. I call them Ohio State. I call them the Buckeyes. I'm one of the few Michigan people that doesn't have a single issue respecting what Ohio State has built from the Jim Tressel era on. They have been the class of the conference. They are the epitome of what it means to be the Big Ten, and that's been the reigning champ now for, roughly 15 out of the last 23 years, maybe more. I don't know. I don't have the numbers in front of me. I'm sure a few teams will get in there every once in a while, but it has been Ohio State. They have been the class of the conference. It is all about the Buckeyes. It has been about the Buckeyes. In fact, many people refer to the Big Ten as a one-team conference, with just Ohio State being able to represent the conference in the college football playoff. Sure, Michigan State, had a year or two, but, look, it all comes down to the Buckeyes. You have to beat them. Everybody knows it. I'm just happy that this is a matchup of top 5 teams, that both programs made it here unscathed at 11-0, with everything that's on the line and how the college football playoff will expand, what this game will mean, how things will change a little bit. Really the last sort of game where your title implications are truly on the line. It's going to be special on Saturday at the Big House, no doubt.
Something like 49 meetings between Ohio State and Michigan have determined either the Big Ten champion or the Big Ten East champion. And as you touched on, that's not going to be the case going forward, because if they had the same scenario next year, well, then the loser would play the winner the following week in the Big Ten championship game. Does that take anything away from this game this year?
Does it? No, I think it adds more to this game this year. I really do, because in the years following, where the conference is going to readjust and get away from divisions and everything's going to be kind of shaken up a little bit, it'll be interesting to see what these ramifications are. I mean, to see a team in back-to-back weeks, I think is going to be, more than challenging, more than enough challenging for the programs that are involved, and how the tiebreakers work out. But it could be very well next year. It's Michigan and Ohio State that meet this week and then have to go play at a neutral site. I think that would be kind of a lot of fun. And then who knows? I mean, that, you talk about sneaking into a 12-team playoff after that. If you lose to the same team twice, would the committee bypass you? Only time will tell. Those are a lot of things that we don't know. And I think for right now, I think you just really enjoy everything that this game means. At the end of the day, it still means a ton to both programs, right? On the outside, they might think that the 12-team playoff might water it down, or however the ramifications of this game might change things. But to the fan bases, it still matters. To the programs, it still matters. It's still Michigan versus the state of Ohio. It's still an all-time great matchup. And the television ratings are going to tell the story, right? I mean, there will be more people tuned into this game. This will do double, maybe 2.5, maybe upwards of 3 times what the World Series did this past year. It's a very important game on everybody's docket this coming weekend.
You went through the list of all the off-field distractions the Michigan Wolverines have been dealing with really all calendar year long. And Jim Harbaugh said it starts off as a high-pitched siren, then you start to tolerate it, and then you are used to it, and it no longer is a factor. And certainly the Wolverines have done a fantastic job this season of just keeping their blinders on, not being distracted by everything going around them, and taking care of business on the field.
They have been able to do so, but look, I was really excited about the Maryland game last weekend because I thought that was going to be kind of a real good test headed into Ohio State. And if you flip back the calendar to last season, you remember Michigan got tested at home, needed a game-winning field goal from Jake Moody in order to beat Illinois to remain undefeated. Everyone, I mean, clutch your pearls, right? The fingernails were gone. We were all nervous. We might have even picked up some bad habits during that ball game, right? Everybody was on the edge of their seat. And then they went to Ohio Stadium and took care of business in the shoe. This year's game against Maryland, I actually was, a lot of my concerns about that offensive line, those concerns, turned out to be true. Offense didn't move the ball nearly as well. I mean, you needed 2 interceptions, you needed 2 safeties in order to win this football game. I had plenty of concerns. So whether it's the outside noise or not, at the end of the day, the product on the field has to match. I mean, that's what it comes down to. And there's been a lot of chatter about how great this team has been. I don't know. Maybe that's outside. I'm more fearful of that outside noise than any of the scandals or anything else that's taken place. That stuff will all work itself out. The outside noise where people start to think, okay, you've been top 5 for most of the year. Everybody, talking about national championship this, national championship that. Have you seen some of the other teams that have been playing college football this year? Have you seen some of the struggles that Michigan has had, right? I mean, this is going to be, I thought Maryland would be a good litmus test and a good way to get this team prepared for this coming week. I think it was a little too close for comfort, but I do think that, I mean, if they want to play this game the way Michigan wants to play it, we know that Ohio State is going to be able to finesse that football down the field. They have the speed, they have the weapons, they have the go, if you will. Michigan's got to meet that with more nasty. Do they have that ability this year to do that, not only on the offensive line, but on the defensive line as well? Time will tell on Saturday, but that's really the biggest matchup to me in this ball game, because Marvin Harrison Jr., Maserati Marv, as my guy Gus Johnson likes to call him, he is going to get his. He is going to go for 100 yards, maybe 1, maybe 2 touchdowns. I just don't know how you're going to stop him. So outside of that, can they take Ibuka out of the game? Can they get that defensive line to neutralize Ohio State's offensive line and kind of take the run game out of the picture? Those are going to be the biggest question marks on Saturday.
Wolverines able to beat Maryland without 2 offensive linemen. Hinton left in the middle of the game. Henderson wasn't there for the start of the game. Roman Wilson barely played. The good news is Sharon Moore said on Monday he expects all 3 to be healthy and ready to go against Ohio State. But speaking of Sharon Moore, the fact of the matter is J.J. McCarthy's had his 2 worst games in the games that Sharon Moore was head coach and play caller, the Bowling Green game and then against Maryland. And they didn't throw the ball a whole lot against Penn State. Is that another area of concern that J.J. McCarthy and the offense has been more ground-oriented over the last 2 weeks?
I think it is when your ground game isn't what people expected it to be. I think that can be a massive, massive concern here. And that's a very good observation, too, because the pass game has struggled. Bowling Green was not a good game. And then, last week having the interception, his first interception since that Bowling Green contest where he threw 3 of them against the Falcons. Now, I think I just chalked that up to the fact that, okay, they know it's Bowling Green. They're going to sling it wherever. The Falcons weren't going to be able to really punish them for making those kinds of mistakes. However, Ohio State will be able to do so. And if they can't run the football, what I'd like to see them do is be able to get J.J. McCarthy out in space. Let's get some play action and get some, what they like to refer to as the naked boot, right? Let's get him on the move. Let's use his mobility to the best of his ability. And I get why you don't want to do that throughout the course of the season, right? You need to keep him upright. You need to keep him healthy. He's been dinged up a little bit, some of the shots that he's taken, but this is the last game of the season, right? You lose this, don't worry about anything else. So this is a game where you want to get him out in space. You want to get him mobile. You want to get your running backs more involved in the short passing game, which can be an extension of your run game in order to take the deep shots down the field. You mentioned Roman Wilson. Caught that football, though. I mean, could not believe the shot that he took to be able to maintain form and be able to maintain concentration and bring that football in. They're going to need a good game out of Cornelius Johnson. They're going to need a good game out of Colson Love. And of course, the fabulous freshman, true freshman, Samaj Morgan. What a bright spot he has been in his first season in the maize and blue. That's a true playmaker. That's a young man that can play on Sundays. They're going to need all systems go. If that offensive line begins to struggle, they're going to have to get creative with the play calling, maybe steal some play calls out of Ben Johnson's playbook. He's got my Lions moving and grooving there, doesn't he? Maybe they try to look for maybe some different looks in the reverse game, getting the wide receivers the ball, get your playmakers the ball, speed and space, right? What Josh Gaddis used to say. They're going to need a little bit of that because I just don't know if that offensive line is going to be able to hold up against the Ohio State front.
Blake Corum perhaps having the quietest 20-touchdown season in college football history. I think maybe one of the interesting backstories going into this game is Blake Corum has not been completely healthy against Ohio State the last 2 years. We had the ankle issue in 2021. Last year, of course, the knee issue warmed up, really wasn't a factor during the game. He is very much looking forward to being 100% healthy and being able to go against the Buckeyes for the first time.
Yeah, and they're going to need him. I mean, he is going to have what they like to refer to as those angry runs because we've seen Michigan's offensive line struggle to get to that second level. So it's going to be on Blake. It's going to be on Donovan Edwards to really kind of lead the charge and do a good job of reading where that actual hole is going to be. If it's a cutback lane, if it's just a small thing where they can bounce it to the outside if the hole closes down, those are split-second decisions these guys are going to have to make. And for Blake Corum, he wants this one. He wants to be a part of this game. He wants a heavy workload too. 15, 20 plus carries. I could see that happening as long as Michigan can stay ahead of schedule against the sticks. What I mean is, stay away from second and third and long. You don't want to be in those positions where it neutralizes the running game. I also don't need to see predictability. Can we go play action on first down and make them bite a little bit? Because it feels like everybody knows exactly when Michigan is going to run the football. So they might have to get creative with that. Maybe we see the flea flicker. We've seen it before. Why not see it again? I mean, why not? Maybe the wide receiver pass. Let's get creative. Let's have some fun. Last game of the year. Can't hold anything back now.
You mentioned predictability. J.J. McCarthy says predictability is a good thing in this sense. He's been through an Ohio State-Michigan game a couple of times now. He knows what it's like to take that first snap. Kyle McCord does not. And J.J. McCarthy said when it is a predictable emotion, it's a manageable emotion. That's going to give him an edge on Saturday.
It most definitely will. And I think that Kyle McCord, it is crazy. I know we've talked about this in this program, but statistically speaking, I mean, his season is just as good, if not better than J.J. McCarthy's, right? But it's the standard that has been set at Ohio State and the quarterback play that they have had and some of the gaudy numbers they've been able to put up with their passing offense that makes Kyle McCord maybe on the outside look a little bit different. And sure, in games, he's missed some throws. We get that. Yes, nerves are definitely a part of this thing, but that's what the true test is about, right? That's why you sign up to go to Ohio State. That's why you sign that letter of intent to go to Michigan. You want to play in this very game under these circumstances with everything on the line, with everybody watching. I mean, these are the big game moments. These are what these young fellas live for. And so I think that if you're Kyle McCord, sure, you haven't experienced this. It's going to be brand new. You're going to get hit and everything's going to go back to normal. And after that first hit, it's just a football game. Can they manage that? Can Ryan Day manage that? Because let's face it, Michigan doesn't have their head coach on the sideline. Plenty of scandals, saga, storyline, whatever you want to call it. All the pressure is on the guys from Columbus, and they got to go on the road to snap this 2-game losing streak. I mean, if they lose this game on Saturday, what happens next with Ryan Day? I mean, how do you look at a guy that does everything right, that has 6 losses maybe? And it's incredible that there's that much pressure on this coaching staff. There's no way they can afford to lose this game, especially if Jim Harbaugh isn't on the sideline, which he won't be. So I don't really think Michigan has any pressure on them. I think you play free, you play excited, you play with a lot of emotion. You go out there and you have a great time. You enjoy the moment that you're experiencing. On the other side of that sideline, man, I don't know. Sweaty palms time for Ryan Day and company. Oh, wouldn't want to be them, Mark. I'd be nervous.
The last time Michigan beat Ohio State 3 years in a row, 1995, 96, 97. We know how 1997 ended with the Wolverines, the national champions. I want to thank our guest from the X's and Bro Show, Anthony Bellino. Anthony, thank you so much.
Mark, as always, a pleasure. Happy Thanksgiving.